Welcome back. Well, he is now the host of Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi. But before that, he was just a small kid from a small hometown in Alberta with a dream that was quite unlikely to be a sports broadcaster. Well, Mama, I made it. Harnarayan Singh joins us now because his new memoir is out. It is entitled One Game at a Time. Harnarayan, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure to be here, Kayla.
Well, you're coming to us all the way from Calgary, but we want to dive into you growing up as a massive fan of the game. And you say that it was super intense, your fandom growing up. Tell us about that.
Yeah, my obsession was pretty unrivaled in the small town of Brooks, Alberta. Hockey was the icebreaker between my classmates and I really took it to another level in terms of my hockey card collection, in terms of this toy microphone that's right with me that my family has kept, where I used to emulate the broadcasters and have an imaginary team. Even this, my life, this in grade 6, I wrote, I want to be a hockey commentator. And just we would be making Prashad,
Wow.
which is a sweet holy pudding on Wayne Gretzky's birthday. I asked my parents if we could celebrate his birthday just the same way as they celebrated ours, my siblings and I. And
I mean, talk about speaking and writing things into existence. And now here you are. But let's talk about Brooks because it's a small town, as you mentioned, with a very small population. And actually, in school, you were the only kid to wear a turban. Can you talk to me about that experience of being an only?
yeah, I mean, I was the subject of a lot of curiosity, constantly having to answer
Mhm.
questions about my appearance, trying to figure out a way, when I reflect back on it, to be comfortable in my own skin. I really admire my parents who came in the 60s and they were somehow able to maintain their faith and give us every opportunity possible in a time when, in the 60s, people maybe hadn't even heard of a turban, let alone seeing one in small
Right.
town southern Alberta. And then I come along and it helped that the Oilers and the Flames were such good teams during that time, and hockey was so popular. I really think my childhood would have been drastically different had it not been for hockey. But when you're very different, you do become the target. And so I'd say earlier on in my elementary school years, it was a ton of curiosity. Eventually to middle school, I did experience some bullying, and I think it's just part and parcel of being a person of a racialized community. And those are some of the obstacles and challenges that you have to go through especially when you're a young kid, and then you're trying to make it in your career as well.
Well, let's talk about some of those obstacles because, today we know you as a super successful sports broadcaster, but there were many points along this journey that you thought or doubted whether or not you could actually achieve your dream because of the barriers put against you because of your skin color. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Melissa, it was something that as a kid, you're often asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I always answered, I want to be a hockey commentator. That was the goal and the dream for me. But it was often met with laughter or sarcasm. And I had to quickly realize why that was. And I had a few moments where people told me very bluntly that, there wasn't any diversity on TV, especially sports television and radio. And the fact that I looked so different, the chances of me making it to mainstream television and sports media was very much a long shot. So much so that even when I finally decided and got the courage enough to try it and go to broadcast school. And even there, I was told that, maybe being a producer would be better for me because everyone was trying to be more realistic. And it was that cautionary tale. So, my story is really about defying the odds. And it is something that I'm very grateful for.
It's the grind, and you managed to stay the course. I mean, you stuck with your dream, and that was to be a hockey commentator. So, talk to me about the level of emotion that you felt when you got the call when they said, listen, we're going to start Hockey Night in Canada in Punjabi, and we want you to be a part of our team.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible, Kayla, because of the fact that, I had this seed of doubt that had been planted in my mind that I still have to fight today, to this very day. And, when you're told constantly throughout your entire life, throughout your entire journey, that this is impossible, for it to actually come to fruition. I would say I'm more grateful than the next person probably who is doing something like this, because of the fact that it means so much more to me, and then it means so much to my family, to my entire community. And I think what it really does is it made the community feel more Canadian. It's really a nation building process. Sports is that, there's that beautiful part where it brings people together. And my story proves that, our show proves that. And we've met grandmothers who've said that they've I remember meeting one who was totally emotional, and she was wearing her Punjabi suit, normal traditional attire, but on top she had a Leafs jersey. And when she came to an event us announcers were at, she was emotional, and I asked why, and she said that through Hockey Night Punjabi, that was the only way her and her grandkids were able to connect, because they thought it was cool that grandma became a hockey fan.
And I think that's so important because that is Canada. That is very Canadian, and it looks different for different communities, for different people. And that's why when Don Cherry made his comments about you people, it stung. It stung. But you tweeted a photo of the whole Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi team wearing poppies. What was the emotion like during that time, and just your thoughts on his comments?
It was a very difficult situation, Kayla, to be honest with you, because we're under the same umbrella and considered colleagues. And I'd met Don, of course, so many times before. But when your community feels singled out, and we had to kind of explain eventually why everyone felt offended when he said what he said. And even that picture with us wearing the poppies, it was unbelievable, the ridiculous comments, some of them that we got, that, oh, these people are probably just wearing poppies now just because of what Don said. Well, no, excuse me. We have our own community has a very rich history in fighting for the Allies and the World Wars. We're proud of that, and we want to remember and honor them too. And of course, working in media, you cannot go on the air without wearing a poppy, and that's the way it's been for the history of Hockey Night Punjabi. I mean, we did receive a lot of support with that picture and during that time, but to be honest with you, it opened up this other part of Canada that I was not aware of. I thought we had made a lot of progress as society, and I myself felt that moments of racism were actually, decreasing. But after that moment, and then everything going on now in the past 4 years in the United States, and the murder of George Floyd and things, this has really made me realize that we have a long ways to go. And I'm seeing a lot more hatred and vitriol being spread, and we're, especially on social media, those are the types of comments that really make me worried about the future, because I'm a very proud Canadian, and I love that we're a multicultural society, but there's a bunch of other stuff that has crept in that does make me a little worried about the future.
I think we got a little taste of exactly what you're talking about on our show, because around the same time and just after Don Cherry had made those comments, we had tackled the issue in a conversation on our show as well. And our response to Don Cherry's comments got a very, very swift and fervent reaction. I'll use the word reaction from a lot of viewers who thought that we were unfairly stereotyping the entire hockey world and those who played hockey as well. Do you think, though, with all the vitriol that did come out of that you witnessed, we certainly witnessed it, is there a point now in hockey culture where perhaps there is some self-reflection happening in the sport?
I would say definitely there is. And Melissa, what gives me hope is that the league, the teams, and the players are finally doing this for the right reasons. And what gives me hope is they're not worried about alienating those fans who have those ignorant views. I really think that's been a turning point. We are seeing the league and officials in terms of a lot of initiatives, a lot of meetings, a lot of conversations going on about this. And I finally feel that we're at a place where not only do players who are diverse, racialized players, they've always had to take this stand, but I feel that others, players of the majority, people of the majority within the hockey world, they're also realizing that they're going to have to step up and take a stand on this as well. And that's really what gives me hope for the future in terms of the sport.
Harnarayan, thank you so much for your time and thank you for all that you do for our communities.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Kayla and Melissa.
All right, everybody, one game at a time. It is available now. Make sure you go out and get a copy. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.